Let me ask you something that might make you think differently about how you choose a spouse. What happens when the person you marry is going through a season where they don't feel close to God? Because that season is inevitable for every human being. You know, I'm not talking about a time where everything appears to be perfect. Everybody is having a great time, excitement about life. You're praying and you're getting answered prayers. Everything appears to be beautiful. Now, I'm talking about a season where when one of you feels discouraged, when you feel tired, things are not working as planned, you feel disappointed, you're questioning things, why are things not adding up? Why are things not happening the way I want it to be? When you become so overwhelmed and you actually feel really discouraged about your relationship with God, and things are beginning to take a backseat, especially your relationship with God. Who have you chosen to walk beside you in that season? Because that is something I don't think we talk about enough when we are dating. We often ask questions like, are we compatible? Does he want to have children? Are we attracted to each other? Is he financially stable or are we financially compatible? I'm not saying that those questions are bad. No, they are not. But here is a question I want you to add to that list. What happens to our relationship with God when life gets difficult? Because as long as we live on earth, storms of life are inevitable, and marriage does not exempt us from them. There will be unexpected occurrences in our lives. It could be bills related, there could be family issues, disappointments. There will actually be moments where one of you does not have the emotional or even the spiritual capacity that you normally have. And that is when you will know for real who you actually married. So, because anybody can say anything, when things are moving smoothly, because because anyone can love you when life appears, to be going easy. But what happens when things take a deep dive? What happens when life appears to be difficult, when you're struggling? You can no longer pay the bills. Probably you even lost a job or you got sick. You're no longer functioning the way you used to. You know, do they use that as a weakness against you? Or do they come alongside you and stay? And we're gonna find our way back together. This is what your partner will say. Don't worry about it. It's just a temporal discomfort. Or is it someone that is gonna say, okay, well, this is not what I signed up for. I want out. Now, that's the kind of person you should be looking for. The person that chooses to stay, whether things are great or bad, it really does not make a difference. Now, I'm saying look for someone whose relationship with God is genuine enough that when life gets messy, that person will turn to God and not turn away from God. And that person will help you come back, especially in a situation where you have derailed. Someone who doesn't just know how to quote scriptures, but leave the scripture. Someone who the scripture shapes their life, who you can look and say, indeed, this person is not just a Christian in words, but in action, I see Christ through this person. Someone who can pray for you without trying to control you. Someone who can correct you with humility. So, someone, who is your anchor. Someone okay, even when I feel so low, that person can, pray me back. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to use myself as an instance. I've had seasons in my life where I've had like a decline. I run back to my spouse. I'm like, honestly, I'm really struggling. I need you to help me. And my spouse does not look at me and criticize, oh, you should know. No, he understands it. There are times he has had to modify his own prayer time so he can walk with me to help me jumpstart my prayer life. And there's never been a time where he looks at me with condemnation. No, because it shouldn't be that way. So, and I'm not just telling you to show my vulnerability. I'm saying it because I want you to understand that it is okay. There's no such thing as we have gotten to that place of perfection. Just make sure that you marry someone who is able to lift you up at your lowest moment, not someone who's going to talk down or look down at you. Because we are not talking about two perfect people coming together, but we are talking about two imperfect people committed to growing, loving, forgiving, and pursuing God together. So don't only ask, can this person pray for me? Ask, am I becoming the kind of person who can pray for my spouse? It's so easy to have a checklist for what we want in a spouse. I want a woman who prays, a woman who gives. I want a man who is spiritually mature, a man who is financially stable. But are you developing those qualities as well? Can your future spouse find safety in you? Can they be vulnerable with you? Can they tell you they've messed up without, you breathing down their throat, fearing that they're going to use it against you? Can they disagree with each other without having to destroy, themselves? That's a type of compatibility that we're talking about. Spiritual compatibility is not just about going to church. Actually, somebody can go to church and still be the best devil. So don't be deceived by, oh, this person goes to church, so he's going to be the best person. That's not what I'm talking about. The question should be, are we headed in the same direction? Do we both have the same desire to serve God? Do we have our values aligned? Now, there are many other questions that should come up. Now, choose someone who will help you move towards God and not away from Him. Because this is something that we need to re-emphasize enough. I've had situations where people, you hear someone say, oh, you're not of the same faith. I'm a Christian, but this guy is such a nice guy, and or this female is such a nice female. I know that this person is not born again or is not a Christian. I and when I'm asked questions like, do we still or should I proceed? I always throw it back, what do you think? Because you should choose someone who helps you move towards God, not someone who takes you away from Him. What's the guarantee that you're going to marry someone that you know is not a Christian, is not a believer, and you will still be a believer? Because I can guarantee you it's only a matter of time. You will stop being a believer. So, because attraction can get you into a relationship, chemistry can keep things, exciting for both of you. But how about your spiritual life, which is what should hold everything else together? So, if everything else about your relationship looked perfect, but your spiritual lives were pulling in opposite directions, would you still consider that that person is a real deal, is who you should end up with? So, the essence of this session is for you to sit back, especially for Christians. Especially for Christians, I want you to sit back, think, ask yourself some honest questions, you know. And like I mentioned, this, I know you have your questions, you have your checklist and all, that is great. But the essence of some of these questions that are brought up today is just so you can think deep. think deep about them before you make that decision of who to marry.